Over the years, I have ridden 1,033 different roller coasters, 878 of which were made of steel. I have ridden steel coasters in 36 different US states and 14 different countries. This is the second part of a video series counting down my top 50 steel roller coasters I have ever ridden as of 2020. If you missed spots 26 through 50, I have a separate video covering those rides. Remember, this list is my opinion and everyone will rank rides differently. The things I prioritize most are airtime, pacing, and a great setting. Coming in at number 25 is Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. I know I'm higher on Apollo's Chariot than most, but this is my type of coaster. I love the setting in the woods, you feel completely isolated from the rest of the park, and every single drop gives some delightful sustained floater airtime if you're riding in the back row. And then the turnaround, while not intense, really shows off the coaster's speed. This coaster is extremely rideable and it always brings a smile to my face. Number 24, Candymonium at Hersheypark. The newest B&M Hypercoaster is the best one in the US in my opinion. Candymonium offers the typical sustained floater airtime we've come to expect on a B&M Hyper, but this one holds its speed better start to finish. Yes, there are trims that do slow you down a bit, but the airtime is still plentiful. The big thing for me is that there isn't really a mid-course brake run unless you count the bit before the final turn. This allows you to get the familiar camelbacks in the first half like Mako, but the coaster doesn't die in the second half. Instead, it has a signature off-axis hill, a few other strong bunny hills, and that picturesque turn around the Kisses Fountain. Number 23, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. I hate myself for liking this coaster more than Dueling Dragons, and you're probably shocked to see this coaster ranked so highly. But it's just pure fun. The coaster is exciting from start to finish. You're either looking at a highly themed show scene or zipping through the forest. There's no dead time on this coaster. The motorbike seating really makes this ride, as the higher center of gravity accentuates the turns, and there are plenty of those. The coaster has 7 launches, and I was stunned just how forceful several of them were, most notably the final one. And the surprise elements throughout the ride are highlights as well. Number 22, Formula Rossa Ferrari World. The world's fastest roller coaster is an absolute joy. The launch is pulsed and the second kick is insane. You really feel every bit of that 149 miles per hour or 240 kilometers per hour speed. But unlike a lot of the other accelerator coasters, Formula Rossa follows that launch with a complete layout. You have a series of S-hills and bunny hills, all of which offer airtime, mostly of the floater variety. But that airtime with a sense of speed makes this coaster. It feels like the love child of Top Thrill Dragster and Millennium Force. Number 21, Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. Not many coasters have a potential claim as the world's most intense coaster, but this coaster is one that does. Intimidator 305 has an incredible ejector airtime filled drop, followed by that famous low-to-the-ground turn guaranteed to make you gray out. What follows is an underrated airtime hill, possibly because you're still trying to regain your vision, and a series of aggressive transitions that will throw you side to side very abruptly. The reason this coaster isn't as high as some of the others on this list is because it's not as good as airtime as the other coasters, but I cannot deny this coaster's pacing and intensity. Number 20, Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. Twisted Timbers feels like a longer version of Storm Chaser. It has a similarly awesome barrel roll drop, and has a never-ending series of ejector hills, most notably those 3 camelbacks on the outward leg. This is another ride hurt by the absence of a traditional first drop, but again this ride is an ejector airtime machine. Number 19, Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia. This coaster is short, but it packs a punch. Every single hill offers very strong ejector airtime, with the highlight being that insane wave turn. Most RMC wave turns deliver sustained floater airtime, but this one delivers sideways ejector airtime. And beyond that airtime, you also have some wonderful inversions, and this coaster feels way faster than its posted speed because of how compact it is. Number 18, the RMC Raptors at Six Flags Fiesta Texas and California's Great America. As short as Twisted Cyclone is, both Wonder Woman and Railblazer are even shorter, but those coasters are wild. The first half in the original Raptor model is among the best of any coaster. The power of the ejector airtime on the first drop, dive loop, and S-Hill is matched by very few coasters. And on the dive loop and S-Hill, you're also getting crazy laterals at the same time. The drop into the second half has equally as strong airtime, and then you glide through the final few elements, getting hang time and your last doses of positive and negative Gs. I have no issue seeing more of these rides get built, as the only criticism I have is that the collar restraints are a bit uncomfortable, but that's just because of how strong the airtime is. Number 17, Orion at Kings Island. Orion grew on me with more rides. I love the sequence of elements. The first drop is one of the best in the world. B&M Giga Drops deliver unbelievable amounts of sustained airtime. And while the ride doesn't hug the ground in the first half like Fury, you really feel the speed in the valleys, particularly when you drop off that far turnaround and hurtle over the speed hill. And then you have several strong airtime moments like the speed hill, giant camelback, and final two hills. Orion may not have the length of Fury, but it's a no-nonsense coaster that mixes some good airtime and elite speed. Plus, I love the whole theme and atmosphere that Kings Island made around Orion. Number 16, Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan. This is easily the king of the flying coasters. It's one of the most intense rides in the world. The money seat is the back row because you get some genuine airtime back there, which is both very cool and an odd sensation on a flyer. But the inversions are what carry this coaster. The Fly to Lie and Pretzel Loop offer some of the most crushing and sustained positive Gs anywhere, and then the inversions later in the ride have really sustained hang time. Plus, you have the visual of soaring high above the midway and lagoon for a memorable experience. Number 15, X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This coaster is one of the craziest out there. Experiencing gigantic elements like vertical drops, Raven turns, and zero G rolls while simultaneously flipping is insane. You'll completely lose sense of which direction is which. The coaster is a bit shaky, particularly in the outside seats, but has never caused me pain or discomfort. I'm too busy focusing on the way X2 throws my body about like a rag doll. Number 14, Eejanaika at Fuji-Q Highland. Take everything I said about X2 and ramp it up a notch. Eejanaika is a bigger and wilder version of X2, having more speed, more force, and more flips. Unfortunately, it also amplifies the shakiness, so if you love X2, you'll like Eejanaika even more. But if you hate X2, you'll hate Eejanaika even more. Number 13, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. I still say Superman is one of the best layouts in the world. It starts off as an out and back with strong and sustained ejector airtime, most notably on the third and fourth hills, which rival the airtime on any coaster. The second half is a spaghetti bowl, mixing forceful helixes and shorter, more abrupt pops of airtime. And with the new wheels the ride received in 2019, Superman ran faster than it has since the mid-2000s. The restraints aren't ideal, but the airtime is so strong that they can overcome the restraints. Number 12, Helix at Liseberg. One of the few inversion-based coasters on this list, Helix is way more than your traditional looper. First off, the ride has an amazing setting on a wooded hillside, and at the ride's highest spots, you get a breathtaking view of downtown Gothenburg. Second, the coaster has a few incredible airtime moments. The Camelbacks offer some of the best sustained ejector airtime of any coaster. Heck, I thought the airtime in these hills were better than any one hill in Balder. And then of course, all 7 inversions delivered. They were mostly of the floater variety, which is fine by me because hang time and lap bar only trains is glorious. The only downside with this coaster is that the launches are absolutely forceless, but the elements around the launches are so strong I could look past it. Number 11, Shambhala PortAventura. Shambhala has one great drop after another, each one providing copious amounts of floater airtime. And every drop provided an odd free-falling sensation as well, which is rare for me to get on a coaster, and that's part of the reason I loved it so much. But beyond the airtime, the coaster has a gorgeous setting and is among the smoothest coasters in the world. Number 10, Millennium Force at Cedar Point. This coaster earned a top 10 spot for me purely for its front row rides. I don't even think it would make my top 25 in the back. This coaster is one of the best coasters in the world for speed. You rocket through Millennium Island in all the tunnels, past the trees, and over pathways. and that enhances the already ridiculous sense of speed. But the coaster also has some good forces too. I particularly love that first drop and the initial overbank. Usually, I start graying out at the bottom of the first drop, and I don't regain my vision until I emerge from the first tunnel. And the few airtime hills this coaster has achieve their purpose. Number 9, Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This one moved down a few spots after my 2020 rides. This coaster feels like the same top 20 RMC copy and pasted back to back. You get 2 strong halves with several powerful airtime moments and a nice inversion. The intermission between halves does hurt the ride's pacing, but the main reason it moved down a few spots for me is that I realized the coasters ahead of it just have better overall elements even if they don't have the same length. Number 8, Fury 325 at Carowinds. The best Giga coaster in the world offers a little bit of everything. You have one of the best first drops in the world with all that airtime. You have a first half that hugs the ground so you can really feel the ride's speed, while simultaneously getting some surprising laterals with those open B&M clamshells. Then the second half focuses on airtime. You kick things off with the sideways airtime on the treble clef, and then you have a few hills with some of the best sustained flagector airtime on the planet. The only reason this coaster isn't higher is that the Helix is rather dull, but everything else is near perfection. Number 7, Skyrush at Hersheypark. This is one of the most aggressive rides in the world. Skyrush's first drop tries to eject you not once, but twice. And the other 3 camelbacks try to do the same with some of the strongest sustained ejector airtime in the world. If that's not enough, you also have some high G turns and violent transitions that try to flip you in the creek. The only reason this coaster isn't higher is because the restraints and intensity make it a bit less re-rideable than the coasters ahead of it, but I still love it no less for its sheer power. Number 6, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. While this coaster may lack the quantity of elements of some of the RMCs already listed, Iron Rattler has some of my favorite elements on any coaster. Iron Rattler's first drop may be my favorite one in the world, especially since the lift no longer slows you down. Getting sustained ejector airtime while performing an S-bend, while diving off a quarry into a tunnel is downright ridiculous. I also especially love the 0G roll that has some beautiful hang time that morphs into sustained airtime atop the quarry wall. And then the quarry drop feels like a second first drop later in the ride with its sustained ejector airtime and sheer length. The one criticism I often hear about this coaster is that the quarry wall section is slow. And that's true. I agree it's slow in speed, but the pacing does not suffer since you're always getting airtime, or the slow speed allows you to get lateral hang time. Number 5, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This was one of the biggest winners of 2020 for me, as Phantom's Revenge shot into my top 5. This coaster does everything I could ask for. It has an amazing setting on a ravine, particularly for that legendary second drop. The coaster's pacing is flawless. You haul start to finish. And then the airtime is unreal. I can't believe how much airtime this coaster offers with such minimalistic restraints, particularly on those final bunny hills that have some real power to them. And then Phantom also mixes in crushing positive Gs in the first half on the valleys and overbank for good measure. Number 4, Schwur Karnan at Hansa Park. I won't be talking about the spoilers related to this coaster, but I'll just say this coaster's elaborate theming and hidden elements really enhance the overall experience. As for the outdoor segment, it's incredible. You start off with one of the best first drops in the world that feels like a bigger version of Expedition GeForce's drop, mixing ejector airtime and laterals. You then fly through a layout combining a little bit of everything: ejector airtime, borderline violent laterals, and strong positive Gs. Karnan is the complete package from the second you enter the queue line, and it's one of the most insane coasters in the world. Number 3, Expedition GeForce at Holiday Park. This is one of the best coasters in the world for sustained ejector airtime. Every single camelback on this coaster delivers that type of airtime. It's like the 4th hill on Superman the Ride, or an El Toro camelback over and over again, with just T-bar restraints. And that's not all. You also have one of the best first drops in the world, offering a frightening combination of ejector airtime and laterals. Plus, this coaster has a wonderful setting in the woods for good measure. Number 2, Untamed at Walibi, Holland. This coaster is a miniature steel vengeance. The coaster is aggressive and left me breathless after each ride. There are 0 dead spots in this coaster, and it just keeps throwing one element after another at you. Usually you're getting crazy ejector airtime, but in the rare instances when you're not, you're likely upside down getting tons of sustained hang time, as this coaster has 5 inversions. Number 1. Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Steel Vengeance feels like 2 top 10 rides spliced together, but unlike Twisted Colossus, where it sort of feels like you have the same ride copy and pasted, Steel Vengeance's 2 halves feel distinctly different, and you also don't have a long pause in between. The first half has supersized elements with sustained airtime and hang time, while the second half has shorter, more aggressive elements that keep launching you out of your seat with no time to recuperate in between. This coaster is an endurance test in the best way possible. So those are the top 25 steel coasters that I have ridden as of 2020. What are your thoughts on any of the coasters on this list? Is there a coaster you're surprised that didn't make the list? Let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to let you know where it ranked, assuming I've ridden it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you gave it a like and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.